So I think almost everybody is familiar with the serenity prayer, but I think it has a particular application to this video and the concept of fearful avoidance, learning to understand the difference between what they can and cannot control. And if you're not already familiar, the serenity prayer goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think there's tremendous wisdom in knowing the difference between what it is that we can versus cannot control. And I personally find that fearful avoidance, as a general rule, can actually really struggle to try to have these sort of compulsive control reactions around things that may be out of their ability to control, like other people's emotions, other people's behaviors. And when we dig into this, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense as to why. Because if you are a fearful avoidant attachment style, you probably grew up in a household or a dynamic during your upbringing or childhood where you felt completely out of control and never wanted to feel like that again. And if we take it a step further, you probably also were conditioned in a way that actually promoted codependent or enmeshed behaviors, which of course further probably led to you to feeling like, okay, I'm supposed to be responsible for other people's behaviors or emotions. I'm supposed to fix or save people. So I want to first just start by unpacking control and where this sort of need for control comes from. And then we'll talk about some different things that we can do to shed this and to actually develop that wisdom to feel about, are we controlling the things that we can control, or are we trying to control things that are actually out of our control and thus just going to create all this inner turmoil and frustration and hopelessness within us. So in this video, we are going to talk about where control actually comes from, what the need to control our external world or even just ourselves all the time is really all about. And I'm going to take you through a 4-step exercise in this video to really challenge some of these different dynamics and encourage you to sort of uproot some of these deep underlying fears so that you can be free from all of this pressure and unnecessary stress you may be putting on yourself. So I think one of the first things that's important to recognize is that control, or the need to control, is almost always rooted in fear. We try to control ourselves or situations when we are afraid. And that could look like us trying to control, what's going to happen in our own life by hyper controlling the way we plan everything or our schedule or the way we expect life to be. And it doesn't mean don't plan. It means understand when things don't go according to plan, that we can only control what we can, right? And also, we can see that we try to control other people's behaviors or perhaps perceptions of us when we are afraid. It's all going to really boil back down into fear. And I find that the view of our relationships to our parents as children has a lot to do with our worldview. In other words, you may find that if you felt out of control or helpless a lot growing up, that you really don't like to feel that way with your life, right? You might find that you kind of project that onto the world, feeling like helpless or afraid of being helpless or out of control in sort of a worldview perspective. In other words, if you didn't grow up in a trusting environment, you may struggle to trust the world and know that you will be okay in it. And while there is merit in that awareness, while there is merit in understanding that that makes sense, right? That may be why you struggle to try to control things that are out of your control. We have to recognize at the same time that we're not going to be able to control every single outcome of the world. But where we can find the wisdom to know the difference is that we can control the way that we choose to perceive the world and how we show up accordingly. In other words, at a deeper level, we may have these really painful beliefs about ourselves or the world if we have trust issues within our world. We may fear that if I don't control everything, I'll be unsafe, or I will be trapped, or I will be powerless, or I will not be strong enough or good enough to handle when things go wrong in my world or life. And these are the first steps to where we can actually solicit change, right? If you can actually make sure that you can elicit change around these limiting beliefs that you have about yourself in the world, then you are going to feel more free, more safe, more confident, more trusting in the world. And it doesn't mean that you then have to get into a position, for example, where you are suddenly like, you know, flying by the seat of your pants and, never planning ahead, never preparing for anything, because that's not good either. Any extreme or polarity isn't the best. But you can be cautious, you can be aware while also being free from sort of this dynamic of always fearing that the other shoe is going to drop or something's always going to go wrong, and trying to sort of control that in advance from happening, because we can spend so much time and energy on those things in a way that really doesn't do a whole lot of good long term, other than maybe stress you out, put you in sympathetic nervous system mode, aka fight or flight mode, and actually exhaust you and burn you out, which is not something you probably want. So I think it's first important to recognize that we cling to things extra hard if we are afraid of being without them as well. So sometimes we overattach to things, or we try to hold on so tight to something because we're scared to deal with not having those things. They may feel like they kind of act as a buffer for ourselves or protect us in the world. And if we want to overcome this fear of control, or this fear of losing control, really is what it is, then one of the most important things you can do is actually sit down and ask yourself this question: if I don't try to control everything, what am I afraid will happen? Okay. And this is a really important place to look. So, what are you afraid will happen? Are you afraid that you'll be unsafe? Are you afraid that you will lose everything, or that everybody will leave you, or nobody will like you? What are those big fears? And you can pause this video to sort of think about that and reflect on it for a moment. But the second question that I would ask yourself is, where do these fears actually come from? Are they relevant to the world itself, or are these feelings I'm actually just afraid of reliving from childhood or past relationships or events? And if the answer to question number two is no, they're actually rooted in the past, I want you to ask yourself number three: what are the costs of continuously fearing that all these things will happen? Continuously fearing being unsafe, or that you can't handle if you make a mistake, or that everybody will judge you. What does it actually cost you? And then last but not least, number four: what are the benefits of letting these things go once and for all? Okay. And you may see that there's actually tremendous benefit. We tend to make better decisions when we are not coming from this place of old fear, when we're not seeing our world through this lens of our subconscious mind's painful past events. We tend to be able to actually be more present, be more regulated, be the better version of ourselves. There's so many benefits that come with us, that come with that. So, if you are learning to let these things go, you can make a little bit of a plan for yourself, right? Number one plan is you can actually challenge some of these beliefs. If I don't control everything, I'll be unsafe. Is that actually true? Right. And you can try to find some evidence of why that's not true. It will help kind of uproot and disconnect some of that belief. Like, how can you still be safe without controlling everything? How can you still be empowered without controlling everything in your life? How will you be able to recover if you make a mistake or something bad happens? How are you strong enough to be able to recover? And the more evidence you have, the more proof, the more that tends to really land at the subconscious level of mind and help to really recondition some of these ideas. And how can you build healthier habits in your life to make sure that you're not constantly in this space of trying to control everything, or be a perfectionist, or put all of this pressure on yourself? And the more you're able to uproot some of these things and actually remove them from a subconscious level, the more present you'll be in your life, and the better you are going to feel. So I have some exciting news, which is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime membership sale to the Personal Development School, which means you get access to literally everything at PDS for your entire rest of your life. Essentially, that entails all of our different courses you have lifetime access to. I do 4 live webinars a week, every single week. You can access them ongoing, and you get access to all of our daily community events. So I'd love to see you on the other side, and you can access it by using the link in the description box below. Now, if you want to do a much deeper dive into this topic as a whole, I definitely want to encourage you to check out the Overcoming Perfectionism and Fear of Losing Control course, which will really help you to reprogram at a much deeper level these different control habits and the different fears that are underneath them, as well as release some of the different painful expectations you have of yourself. Sometimes fearful avoidance can be really hard on themselves and really expect so much from themselves. And this can be to the point of burnout, right? This can be to the point of exhaustion or self-sabotage. So it will help uproot a lot of those different issues. And again, you can check it out for 14 days for free. Just for a limited time, we're doing a 14-day free trial. So I'll put that link down below. And this is a really important topic if you're willing to reflect as a fearful avoidant on all the different ways this may show up in your life. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know other video topics you want to see down below. I would love to hear from you. I definitely pick video topics all the time from the questions and comments down below. And if you want to see more content like this, please hit the thumbs up button, more fearful avoidant content. I will be looking out for that. And thank you so much for stopping by and for watching.